Dynamics Con, welcome to the SPS Commerce presentation today. I'm joined by Brian Lynch, who is our Senior Product Specialist on the Microsoft Market team. Brian joins us with over 24 years of experience in the EDI space. I'm Grant Beresford, Senior Director of Sales, and I join you with about 24 years in the ERP space, most of that time spent in the Dynamics ecosystem. So thank you for joining us today. We're excited to be with you. We'd like to start off by revisiting some news that happened back in December of 2020, which is that Data Masons, where Brian and I both came from, was acquired by SPS Commerce. SPS Commerce brought over the entire team from Data Masons and now has folded it into SPS Commerce as the Microsoft Market team. In doing so, we bring to bear a tremendous amount of experience with over 180 trained consultants who know both EDI as well as the Dynamics ERP footprint and functional capabilities. Together, we have over 1,000 customers that we service, which amounts to over 22,000 production documents and over 25 years of experience within the Microsoft ecosystem. So a tremendous amount of experience. It's really a market-leading solution. And Brian, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, one thing that I'm kind of excited, as I kind of talk with our partners and customers, is not everyone was aware of the fact that Data Masons and SPS had partnered for over 10 years. So as we kind of joke internally, it's kind of dating for all that time and now kind of formalize the marriage. So it really is kind of the best of both. The Data Masons certified integration, built right for Dynamics, coupled with the largest retail network. It truly is a story of 1 + 1 = 3.
Very true. And with that depth of experience over the last 10 years, for our customers, it amounts to this is a tried and true solution. So you're not subject to a learning curve, that this is a well-oiled machine, so to speak. So our agenda for today is we're going to take you through the challenges associated with fulfilling an order, or EDI. Then we're going to walk you through the SPS solution for full service EDI and what that looks like. Brian is going to take us into a demonstration in Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain and show you the integration of the full service solution into Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain. Then we'll talk a little bit about how we support our customers and leave some time at the end for some question and answer. So fulfilling an order is complex. As we all know, there's evolving and changing needs within the EDI space on its own in terms of changes in compliance, changes in your trading partners, in terms of what their requirements are, in terms of how the EDI is going to interact. There's complexities in supply chain, as we've seen within COVID, which has really accelerated the multi-channel requirements that we all face now. There's 5 different order fulfillment types, from DSD to straight to store to a distribution center or cross-dock capabilities. So lots of complexities there. And as particularly in the Microsoft ecosystem, as many customers move from on-premise legacy versions of Dynamics into D365, they need to bring along with that, obviously, their EDI solution, and that creates some additional complexity. If we look at the EDI function, there are 7 requirements or 7 areas that need to be fulfilled in order to have a functional EDI delivery. Those combine people, process, and technology. So if we start with the technology, that's kind of at the center where you need a translation engine. You need to be able to do cross-referencing and mapping to various trading partners and fulfill their requirements. You need to, as I mentioned before, be able to adhere to different sales channels and the different business processes associated with them. You need to design and configure the solution and make sure that you have the appropriate business rules to account for things like cross-references, maybe use UPC codes are, different referencing types. Unit of measure is another one. You need to accommodate a variety of communication channels that are required. Some trading partners are going to say you've got to use a VAN. Some will go with an API. It just depends, and you have to have the flexibility and capability to adhere to differing requirements by trading partner. Testing and launching a solution is extremely important because, as we've said, this is a mission critical function within the enterprise, and you can't just launch it without the commensurate level of testing to ensure that orders, invoices, POs, et cetera, are all going through as anticipated. You need ongoing support because things change. This is a dynamic environment. And then you also need to proactively monitor the system to ensure that each and every communication order document is going through as anticipated so that you're catching errors early and making the adjustments necessary. Most solutions in the marketplace are going to adhere to a number of these, typically 3, maybe 4 of these areas, which means that now you as the customer are left with some areas that you need to fill in. So testing and launch is a typical one, where now you're faced with the task of writing test scripts, initiating them, ensuring that your transactions are going through the system appropriately. Trading partner expertise is another. Now you're faced with having to call the trading partners as requirements may change, as you're spinning up new trading partners. You have to interact with them to ensure that you're getting the right requirements and configuring your system to adhere to theirs. Otherwise, you're going to be faced with failed transactions and possibly compliance fines from your trading partners. And that obviously diminishes your reputation in the market and your relationship with your trading partners. Brian, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of, just a lot of the conversations that I have as organizations evaluate, especially as you commented in regards to, moving to Dynamics 365, partner onboarding suffers in regards to, some of the trading partner expertise. You're calling Walmart and, like, who do I call and how do I navigate? There's just a lot of areas that really do make up EDI compliance, but yet, EDI is mandated by a lot of these organizations. So it can really have a lot of downstream impacts, not only to customer service, but to warehouse, to accounting. And so it's just a very critical element for many organizations.
Absolutely. So when parts of those processes or entire processes are not delivered by your EDI vendor, you run into unplanned complexity. You put strain and stress on your resource pool, whether it's IT or people in the business. EDI is not, and the demands from an EDI solution are not linear. They spike from time to time as you get into, high season, Black Friday, as different partners change their requirements. You may have spikes in demand, and this stretches your organization. So it can result in high costs unexpectedly, as well as strains on the organization. SPS EDI has 20 years in the marketplace, and we have built a solution that is unparalleled in the market. The crown jewel of our solution is what we call our network, which amounts to over 80,000 pre-mapped connections to trading partners. What this amounts to for our customers is when you initiate a trading partner, you have the comfort of knowing that all the other customers within SPS are utilizing that connection. It's tried, it's true, it's scalable, and it's going to work. And that's the key. I mean, it sounds overly simplistic about EDI, but that's the key to EDI. It just needs to work. Additionally, we have relationships with over 400 systems partners. So that gives you the comfort to know that as Dynamics changes, we're going to keep that integration layer up to speed. And should you venture into another platform with a different requirement, we're going to handle that. We've got over 3,000 trading partners in the retail, distribution, grocery, and manufacturing space. We've got deep relationships with 3PLs, over 1,000 of them. And we adhere to what you would expect in terms of security certifications, in terms of ISO and SOC and HIPAA requirements. Anything to add there, Brian?
Well, in today's environment, security is definitely, one of the larger areas of concern. And I'm so impressed with, the team that SPS has put together to really ensure protection of customer data and overall workflow. Today's retailer requires, really constantly on access to information to ensure good inventory levels and proper supply chain flow. And so having that network and that backbone for a lot of organization is just, again, critical to the operation.
A nice thing about SPS Commerce is while we deliver on the EDI solution, we also take a comprehensive look at the requirements or needs of our customers. And certainly item data is a really critical component. The ability to, if you're a manufacturer, get to your retailers in a streamlined manner, all the necessary item information so that as they sell your product, that it's always up to date and the customer is always able to access, whether it be through an online e-commerce channel or in store, they're going to get the most recent and up-to-date information on your product. We also provide a sell-through analytical capability so that you have insight into where products are selling, at what prices, to what types of consumers, so you can better plan your go-to-market and your manufacturing and supply chain capabilities. And overall, knowing the cost benefits and the efficiencies that EDI brings, we have a service to onboard your vendors so that now you can have a high percentage, if not entirely, all of your vendors communicating with you via EDI so that now you see the cost benefits and the supply chain visibility associated with that.
Grant, when I started my career all those years ago, it wasn't uncommon to, unfortunately, end up with something like this. And what I mean by that is Grant talked about the 7 pillars of really any EDI system. And so, we would, basically install a translator. We had to have an IT resource, basically build a map. And so we had to have the tool to do that. Or we maybe outsourced to a kind of consultant on a time and materials basis. And great, we landed Walmart. Walmart gave us this document of 150 pages of all these rules that we had to follow. And, so we basically started from scratch and we created the purchase order and we did the PO acknowledgement. And now all of a sudden we added Target. And so we either started from scratch or we copied Walmart. And then we made the changes. And the reality after doing that for a little bit is you kind of end up with a little bit of spaghetti. It's not uncommon, hundreds of maps that now are a point-to-point solution that just became unwieldy from a long-term, kind of support standpoint, coupled with the fact that within Dynamics, there's a lot of configuration choices, user-defined fields. And so from one implementation to another, oftentimes very different. And so if you think about that kind of complexity, as you'll see on the next slide, SPS comes to market with really a better approach. And so Grant talked about that power of our network. We've got Amazon, we've got Walmart, we've got 80,000 pre-built connections that, it's not uncommon that a single set of maps, or if you think of set of rules and documents for a given partner, those are used oftentimes by hundreds, if not thousands of organizations within the SPS network. This really allows for us to onboard new business partners much quicker at a much more economical standpoint. And if you think about the retailer, it's of strategic value to them as well, because they know, hey, that new supplier that's working with SBS handles 2,500 of our suppliers. And so they've got a much higher level of confidence. SBS strategically is important, so we're aware of changes that happen. So now take that network, and as you can see, the pre-mapped requirements, the pre-built reports. Now, as we go to connect to Dynamics, instead of having to do these hundreds of maps, we're now going to integrate at a transactional level. So we have one map that may do an inbound sales order. As we then execute pick, pack, and ship, we've got one map that's going to handle PO acknowledgements and ASNs and invoices. Now, every Dynamics customer and implementation may be a little bit different, but that's really where the power of the Data Masons integration comes in. We configure to those variances and present a standardized message up to the network, whereby the network then facilitates, all of the communication, back and forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. And so what we'll do here is go ahead and show you Dynamics. And here I am. And again, I appreciate that some organizations may be running AX or maybe even another environment. With SPS system automation, when I sign into a transaction, such as I'm doing here as a sales order, I'll call your attention to the fact that we actually have an EDI button. Out of the box, Dynamics does not come with this. SPS uses the extension layer whereby we can, get access to EDI processing right within the system. Now, if I were to key this order in, I'd have to say what customer and what requested ship date, my part number to their part number, what price do we use, what unit of measure, what warehouse. Well, with SPS system automation, we're integrating these transactions as if you had keyed them in. And if you configure it, again, here we can say things like the sales origin is EDI. Now, how do we know that this particular customer is an EDI-enabled partner? Well, if I go back to master data, we're going to have a very similar concept where, again, in this case, I have an AR customer. We see the fact that they're EDI, and I can say, yes, Target is an EDI partner. Yes, they do a purchase order and an invoice, and here's the rules that we need to follow when we connect out to the actual network. Now, as I go through that day-to-day process and execute pick, pack, ship, here with Dynamics, that might be doing things like confirming the sales order, generating the picking ticket. By the way, if you're using advanced warehousing or even third-party warehousing, native integrations, as the process packs and we ship and eventually we invoice, well, SPS gives us visibility to what we call Transaction Lifecycle Explorer. And really what this does is it shows us, we received an inbound order. We received and sent out the purchase order acknowledgement. In my case, I use a third-party warehouse. SPS helps with customers, with 3PLs, with vendor suppliers, with carriers, with brokers, with marketplaces, and even e-commerce engines such as Magento and some of the big commerce, some of the other platforms that are out there. Now, as you can probably see here, this last transaction is color-coded a little bit different. It's red. I see that in the UI. I also would have gotten an email notification. I, as an end user, if I don't know how to resolve the issue, I can actually see, basically our exception message as far as what it is that operator is doing. And if need be, I actually have all of this visibility within our dashboards. And I don't know about you, but all of us end users, I like this one over there. I want this one a little bit bigger. I only want to see this particular business partner. That's all personalization that you can do, especially as a global supplier. Your business, maybe English isn't the primary language, so language localization is often important. As you get into setting up users, a role-based security where Brian Lynch, is not able to edit a transaction, but boy, Grant, our administrator, is. We can go in and give those credentials as to what needs to process under what conditions. And as we get into, the overall transactions themselves, SPS's system automation is a natural staging table. And so if we think about orders that are coming in, maybe again, my price or my part number, other things that we may need to do validation on. Well, it's not uncommon for our customers. Maybe I got 1,000 sales orders that came in this morning at 7:00. Well, guess what? Here are the 6 that didn't meet all of those validation rules. And I now need to take an action whereby I could edit a transaction, reprocess a transaction, reject it, have the customer reprocess. And as I do those things, those, in this case, orders come out of the list. Now, like Excel, you can move these grids around. I'm really, happy about all of the filter capability. I'm looking for that Walmart order that came in yesterday for this particular store. I don't need to have IT build something custom. Our end users are empowered to be able to do that. Now, armed with our one-time setup that we talked about a little bit earlier, we get into really the heart and power of the system automation, which is really our scheduling capability. And so here I can see all of the business processes that I have set up to be automated. Some of these are happening on time schedules. Others may be event-based. And as I go into any one of these areas, you'll see a theme with SPS that it's really configuration. Again, maybe I don't want to do it every minute. Maybe I only need it to apply to a certain legal entity or a certain partner. And oh, by the way, for my configuration, I have one extra task that I need to insert into the workflow. And so again, it becomes a configuration. Armed with this one-time setup, again, SPS automation is running in the background, giving us the exception management. And really from a day-to-day standpoint, I'm just really inside of Dynamics. So I do want to talk a little bit about ERP risk. And so we're going to open up just a couple little concepts here real quick. And in that, I wanted to kind of walk us through that when you think about, again, maybe you're exploring a change in EDI providers, or you're thinking about upgrading Dynamics, or maybe you're even on Dynamics 365. Microsoft does 8 updates a year. You really need to have that proven EDI solution to ensure that you're, not taking on additional risks. Over our 24-year history, unfortunately, I hear so many stories of, boy, Bob, our EDI person, was really good, but then he left the organization or he got promoted. And all of a sudden now we've got all these point-to-point maps. And so, relying on one individual or even a smaller outsourced party, doesn't have the scale that's needed. And then as you get into minimizing risk, maybe you, for instance, need what we call fulfillment, which is the notion that we have a portal area going through, being able to allow us to see all of the transactions, if need be, process, maybe non-integrated transactions, and have a really tight user interface to be able to accomplish all these EDI requirements.
The beauty of our solution is we provide a full service solution. So we take you in terms of initiation of it, we take you through the setup, the testing, We're there with you at the go live, and we're there with you in an ongoing basis, so that there's not pieces and parts that you have to worry about picking up and coordinating with us. We're going to take the lead, and we're going to own this project to get you up and successful and functioning efficiently in an ongoing basis. To do that, there's some differentiators. First of all, we start off with, regardless of the channel, we give you 24/7, 365 support. We lead the implementation with the consulting. We answer questions for you. We bring to bear, as I mentioned early in the presentation, very, very highly skilled resources that understand not only your ERP platform and the associated processes, but also understand EDI. We also bring to bear the expertise with trading partners. We've worked with these trading partners time and time again. When we pick up the phone and call them, they know who we are. And so that shortens the cycle as well as takes the burden off of your shoulders. And then we provide ongoing training. So to ensure that your staff, should you want to be involved in different parts of the process, we're going to give the associated tools and expertise to function effectively. Our full service promise is we're going to lead this and make you successful. I mean, as I mentioned before, we're going to pick up all the slack so that on an ongoing basis, as well as we start with your implementation, we're going to make you successful. EDI is a mission critical function within your business, and we have the expertise to ensure that it's delivered successfully. The challenge, we can talk all day long about what our capabilities are, but the proof is in the pudding and in the results. And we are recognized in the market of EDI providers as the retention leader. Our customers stay with us because they are successful, and we've removed a tremendous burden from their shoulders. We also look at how the market responds in terms of competitive wins. These are customers who were on a competing solution and suffered the challenges associated with that, and then were introduced to SPS Commerce and the capabilities we bring. And we've had over 780 competitive wins from those types of customers looking for a better solution. So anything you'd like to add to that, Brian, before we wrap this up?
No, I mean, definitely every organization has to kind of evaluate, what your core competency is. And, boy, if EDI is what you get up wanting to do each and every day, again, that's one approach. As you evaluate strategic initiatives, labor shortages, what we're seeing, especially with Dynamics 365, is, really outsourcing to people that do this every single day. And that's really what you would get in a partnership with SPS.
We'd like to thank you for your attendance today. If there's any questions, you can put them into the Q&A panel on your screen. If you have follow-up questions that you'd like to or engage with us on, Judy Weston can be your direct contact. Her information is listed there on the screen. And we hope you have a great Dynamics Con. Thank you very much.